When I think of two films that are rich with great cinematography and mise-en-scène, I think of The Truman Show and Harry Potter. Two films that are two completely different genres with completely different stories. Today I'll be analysing two scenes, one from each film. Let's start with Truman.
Good morning!
Good morning, Truman. Looking very lovely in your costume, which just happens to be the same colour scheme as your house. If I were none the wiser, I'd think you were trying to rip off adverts from the 1950s, promoting the perfect suburban life. The Truman Show is a 1998 drama featuring Jim Carrey as the title character. In the film, the character of Truman has grown up on the set of a TV show of his life. The only twist is, he has no clue that the whole thing is filmed with hidden cameras. All the people he knows and sees on a daily basis are actors, and he's none the wiser. The scene we are taking a look at today is when we are first properly introduced to Truman and the world he lives in.
Morning! Good morning!
Oh, and in case I don't see you, good afternoon, good evening, and good night.
Correct me if I'm wrong, but that looks like the sort of zoom shot that you'd see in the intro to a 90s sitcom. Which, in the context of The Truman Show, it kind of is. Another thing about this shot, look at the vignette. Knowing the plot of The Truman Show, this looks like it could be coming from a hidden camera. Let's move on in the scene. The shot after this shows Truman's neighbour lifting up a bin. This shot is only very short as it goes to a reverse shot from the point of view of the hidden camera on the bin, which is revealed as a black dome in the next shot. In case you didn't notice the dome, it's hinted that the shot is coming from a hidden camera thanks to the obvious camera shake. Another interesting hidden camera shot in the first part of this clip is a low angle shot looking up at Truman as if the hidden camera is set up in a bush. In any other film context it would look out of place in a scene like this, but in The Truman Show it makes perfect sense. This is a hidden camera reality show and camera shots come from everywhere. Also, it's eerily quiet. Nothing but birdsong, which just shows us that this is supposed to be a simulation of real life, so naturally there would be no non-diegetic music, or the soundtrack. This whole scene is a definition of high-key lighting. In fact, every single daytime shot is. There's never a cloud in the sky, and it's always sunny. The lighting is almost like that of a studio set, which of course, it is. This is backed up as when Truman begins getting in his car, one of said studio lights falls from the sky with a bomb whistle and explodes on the ground. This makes the scene interesting for two reasons. It marks the first time that Truman begins to doubt this reality, which is a major plot point in the film, but also, in this shot where we see Truman reacting to the smash, in the far background we can see Truman's neighbour walking towards the bus as if nothing happened, because obviously he's an actor and he's following his direction. In fact, Truman is the only person who reacts and goes to check it out. To try and settle Truman's suspicions, the in-film producers have mentioned it over a car radio that an aircraft started shedding parts. After this newsflash, there is almost a small conversation between Truman and the radio presenter, which shows that Truman's car is bugged because the radio presenter knows what Truman is saying. Up-tempo piano music begins playing as Truman reaches the main town. It's diegetic at first as it's played over the car radio, but it carries on even after he leaves the car to add continuity as non-diegetic music. When we see the establishing shot of the town, it looks like a huge studio set, as it looks immaculate. It looks like the town set from Back to the Future, a huge life-size set on the courthouse square at Universal Studios. In the newsagent's booth, we can see some magazine stands, fully stocked on each side of the serving window. However, the only magazines relate to home, garden and family. There are no magazines that relate to anything outside of the family life, or in this film's case, outside of the dome. The dog on the cover of Dog Fancy looks like the same dog Pluto from earlier in the scene, which, coming from a production standpoint, it would be more efficient to use the same dog.
Yeah. Morning. Hank, morning, Truman.
After this exchange, Truman continues on his way to work when he runs into two men who push him up against a small billboard advertising a fast food restaurant, which is likely the in-film producers having product placement for a sponsor of The Truman Show. When it's mentioned by one of the men about how the weather is nice, Truman replies with, "As much of a throwaway comment as this is, it reinforces that this world is on a studio set and always has nice weather." That clip is only 2 minutes long, but it's absolutely packed with detail. Now without further ado, let's take a spell and fly swiftly on to this magical clip from Harry Potter and the Half-Blood Prince. The scene starts with an amazing establishing shot of the top section of the shop. The background city around the shop is grey and overcast, which contrasts with the shop's bright purple and orange colour scheme. These colours tell the audience that the shop is fun compared to the boring world. A statue of the Weasley twins' likeness lets the audience know that this is their shop. There is a rabbit on the head of the statue which disappears after being covered by a top hat. This tells the audience that there is magic in the shop, in case you didn't already know that you were watching a film about magic. But on a serious note, if you're watching Harry Potter and not expecting magic, I don't even know what to say. The music in the background has a clockwork sort of industrial feel to it, before swelling into an upbeat orchestra piece, which has a sense of childlike wonder about it. The music swells just as the rabbit disappears, almost like a musical ta-da, before taking us into the shop to show us more magic. We are led into the shop by two flying sparks, which have erratic flight patterns. They also have a high-pitched, somewhat annoying whizzing sound, which links to the shop selling magical practical jokes. It also gets the audience's attention, as their eyes are drawn to the sparks like moths to a lamp.
Nosebleed nougat, just in time for school, puking pastels.
We see a toy of Umbridge wheeling along a tightrope saying her signature line from the 5th instalment of the Potter franchise. This is ironic in the scene, as the shop is in nothing but order. This guy is literally climbing the walls. And just a few seconds ago, we see someone walking up the stairs with a literal box of snakes. This shop wouldn't know order if it cast the Cruciatus curse on it. The twins can be seen in this shot, talking to Harry about the
Peruvian instant darkness powder.
And how it's
Handy if you need to make a quick getaway.
This could possibly be foreshadowing a scene later in the film where the powder needs to be used, specifically this scene on the Hogwarts Express.
What's that?
Relax, boys. It's probably just a fantasy messing around. Come on, Draco. Sit down. We'll be at Hogwarts soon.
We see Hermione and Ginny looking at love potions. While this is made explicit from dialogue that they are looking at love potions, the pink light being emitted from the stand would suggest to the audience that these are love potions, as the colour pink has connotations to love. While the twins are talking to their sister Ginny about her new boyfriend, we get a reverse shot of Harry who looks quite displeased and bummed out about it, which tells the audience that he wants to be with her. Speaking of awkward relationships, after this we see Hermione look over her shoulder while holding a love potion, looking quite nervous. We then get a reverse shot showing a boy she's looking at, who is also looking back at her. We cut back to Hermione, and she puts the potion back on the stand, like she definitely wasn't thinking about using it on him. There's a bit of comedic dialogue between the twins and Ron which I absolutely love over the price of a product which costs 5 galleons. When Ron brings up that he's their brother, the twins raise the price to 10 galleons, which shows the stereotype of older brothers joking around with the little brother. What makes this little section so effective is the use of different shot types. As the brotherly exchange happens, the shots become closer and closer before we finally get to the punchline. Over the course of 4 shots, the framing goes from a long master shot showing the 3 brothers, to a mid-shot of the twins, to a mid-shot of Ron, to a medium close-up of the twins, before they walk away satisfied that Ron is dissatisfied. As the trio are leaving the shop, we get a rather awkward introduction to Lavender Brown, as she says, as he passes her. Her body language screams out, "I love you, marry me Ronald, you lovable idiot." And as Ron leaves the frame, Lavender is left fiddling with something and biting her lip, which again suggests that she wants him bad. and that's really all the analysis I could come up with this scene. Now let's chat about some of the main comparisons. Now obviously, these films are two completely different genres. The Truman Show being a drama, and The Half-Blood Prince being a fantasy film, and conventions of these genres are shown in both scenes. Now you may be thinking, Harry Potter is obviously a fantasy film because of all the magic, but what conventions does The Truman Show have of a drama? The answer is simply, it shows everyday life, and situations with a semi-realistic character. I guess it's as real as it gets when you literally grow up on a film set. Right, Truman?
Yeah.
Another thing I wish to compare in both scenes is the lighting. As I already discussed, the lighting in Truman is high key all the way through, whereas the lighting in The Half-Blood Prince is low key. It's dark. It looks like the only light is coming from a skylight or chandelier. It makes the scene look rustic and vintage, like we're in an old magic shop. Oh wait! One last thing is how much is actually going on in each scene. In the scene from The Truman Show, the camera is always on Truman, and there is never more than one thing happening behind him, whereas in The Half-Blood Prince, you can watch the scene over and over and pick up on new things happening in the background. This shows the difference between the two films, as it shows that The Truman Show does what it says on the tin, and it's all about Truman, whereas the scene from Harry Potter is just to show off the shop and everything that goes on in there. So there we have it. Two scenes from two completely different films of two different genres that are absolutely crammed with details. You could almost call it magical. Feeling a little more enlightened?
Yeah.
Good. Thank you for watching.